Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video. Drop a comment down below if you have a question about anything that I'm about to go over. And also share this video with somebody. All right. Now, what are we about to do now? We're about to factor this expression by grouping. What does grouping mean? That means we create groups. Usually you'll do this if you have a group of terms or your expression has 4 terms or 6 terms or 8 terms. For the most part, I've only seen, I'm not gonna say I've only seen, but for the most part, when I've used grouping when I see 4 terms. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Terms are separated by plus or minus signs. So I see a plus sign, plus sign, plus sign. So that means that this is a term, that's a term, that's a term, and that's a term. So that's 4 terms. Now, why do we call it factoring by grouping? Because basically you create 2 separate groups and then you just factor by taking out a GCF. That's really all factoring by grouping is. It's treated like it's something like brand new and different and like all innovative and special and whatnot, but it really ain't nothing too crazy. All it is just taking out the GCF, but it's like you take an expression and you break it up into separate groups, and then within each group, you take the GCF out and factor it that way, and then you bring everything together. Then you take the GCF of the new expression that you end up with, and then you get your final answer. Let me show you. So dig this, right? This is 4 terms. I'm going to break it up into 2 groups. The 2 groups are going to be these first 2 terms, mp squared plus 7m, that's one group. And then my next group is going to be 3p squared plus 21. So those are my 2 groups. That's why it's called factoring by grouping. Make sure whenever you're learning different topics in math, you ask yourself or ask your teacher, ask your professor, whoever, why, think to yourself, why is this called that? Why does this have that name? What's the etymology? It's called grouping because we create groups. We create groups. And if you do that with every topic you learn in math or you're confronted with in math, things will start to make more sense and you'll be able to pick up on the steps and the process to complete the problems. All right, so now, like I said, you create groups and just find the GCF, pull the GCF out and factor that way. So in this group, what's the GCF? The GCF is M. If you look at the coefficients, 1 and 7, out of 1 and 7, the GCF would just be 1, right? Because 1 and 7 are what we call relatively prime or co-prime, meaning their common factor is just 1. Ain't nothing we can really do with that. When your GCF is 1, it don't change nothing, right? And then we got an M to the first and an M to the first. So M is common. M is common because it's in both terms. That's what common means. That's the C, well, and it's not written up here, but that's the C in GCF. It means it's common. It's in both terms. So, and you take the M with the smaller exponent, they both got an exponent of 1. So therefore, 1 is the smaller exponent because it's the only exponent. P squared is right here, but it's not over here. So P squared is not common. So it's not part of the GCF. So your GCF for these 2 terms is just M. So you're going to write M, and then you're going to write parentheses. Now, what goes inside the parentheses? The results of your division. You're going to take your quotients. You take each original term and divide it by M. Take this, divided by M. Take that, divided by M. Because that's the opposite of multiplication, right? Division is the opposite of multiplication. So I'm going to divide this by this. MP squared divided by M leaves me with just P squared. 7M divided by M leaves me with 7. Now, why is that? Because M divided by M is equal to 1. And then I'm going to have 1 times P squared, which equals P squared. Then I'm going to have 7M divided by M. M divided by M equals 1. Then I'm going to have 7 times 1, which is just 7. So this part is done. This group is done. All right, now we go into the next group. For the next group, what's the GCF? Look at your coefficients, a 3 and a 21. Well, we can think of 21 as a constant. So let's say 3 is a coefficient and 21 is a constant. You still can compare coefficients and constants. The GCF of 3 and 21 is 3. P squared ain't common because 21, this term does not have a P term in it. So P is not common. So therefore P squared or P is not part of the GCF. The GCF is just 3. Just 3. So we're going to write plus 3 with parentheses. Now, what goes inside the parentheses? We divide. Quotient. We get quotients. 3p squared divided by 3 is equal to p squared. Why is that? Because 3 divided by 3 is 1, and we multiply 1 by the p squared, which gives us p squared. Then we do 21 divided by 3, which is 7. Make sure you know your division facts by heart from memory. Make sure you know your multiplication facts by heart from memory, right? So now, this is what we want to see. When we factor by grouping, we want to end up with binomials that are identical. Identical. So p squared plus 7 is here, p squared plus 7 is here. Then we're going to find the GCF of this whole expression. What's the GCF? So sometimes your GCF will be a single term, or what we call a monomial. The prefix mono means one, right? A monomial. Sometimes your GCF will be a binomial, like in this situation. We got p squared plus 7, that's a binomial. P squared plus 7 again, that's a binomial. That's what these two terms have in common. So think about it. This is a term, and this is a term. M times the quantity p squared plus 7 is one term. 3 times the quantity p squared plus 7 is another term. So this, even though it might not look like it to you, this is a binomial for real. All right. So your GCF is what they have in common. This whole binomial, p squared plus 7. So you got p squared plus 7. That's your GCF. Then what goes inside the parentheses? You take this term divided by p squared plus 7. What do you get? M. Just M. Why? Because p squared plus 7 divided by the p squared plus 7, that part becomes positive 1 because you're dividing something by itself. Whenever you divide something by itself, your quotient is always just going to be 1. So that's 1, and that's M is still there. So M times 1 is M. Then you do the same thing over here. You're going to have p squared plus 7 divided by the p squared plus 7. That's 1 again. So then you're going to have the 3 that was there times the 1, right? So you're going to have 3 plus 3. Now, you don't write this like this. What you're going to do is put it in parentheses. So you got p squared plus 7 times the quantity m plus 3. This is the final answer. All right. Now, I explained to you how we got the p squared plus 7 and how we got the m plus 3. We're really taking the GCF again. But back in the day when I was younger and I learned how to do this, I didn't really understand the concept behind it. I just picked up on the algorithm. Basically, what I say is, once the binomials match up, you write whatever it is down here. And then you set up another binomial over here right next to it. And then you take the outside terms, that, and you put them together, right? And another binomial. So it's like they become friends. This outside term and that outside term become friends together in their own binomial. All right. But the reason is because basically we're taking a GCF, and the GCF of these two expressions is p squared plus 7, because this has a p squared plus 7 and this one has a p squared plus 7. That's your GCF. Then you divide this by the GCF, you're left with m. You divide this by the GCF, you're left with 3. So you put those in there, and that's how you get your answer. And if you multiply this out using either the FOIL method, or if you got a teacher that don't like the FOIL method, just distributive property, you would end up with what we got up here. That's also a way to check your work whenever you factor. All right. So go get some practice on factoring by grouping. Also, take a moment, take a look at the sister that's on my t-shirt, the late Shirley Chisholm, who ran for president. Black woman. She was a congressman from Brooklyn. Her family was originally from the Barbados, and she was a politician in our community. So do your research on Shirley Chisholm. All right. So go practice factoring by grouping and study Shirley Chisholm. All right. I'll see y'all on the next video.